everyone, Crow here, and what we're looking at here is the Atari 5200. Now back when I did the look at the Atari XEGS, Dave for Shmups posted a comment saying that I should do a review on the 5200. Now just looking at this system, the size of this system, this is easily one of the biggest video game systems I have. One of the reasons this thing is so big is because they felt the need to add this compartment in here. It's just empty space in the back here for no reason at all, and that will hold two controllers. And while I have brought up the controllers, I will mention that this is one of the reasons the system did fail. They tried, in honesty, I could see what they were going for here, and they tried to make the controller do too much, in my opinion. They wanted to have a joystick and yet still somehow have the analog functionality of a paddle. So they wound up with these analog joysticks, which I believe this is the first system to ever have analog controllers. Game console. Maybe computer controllers did have analog before this. But this, as far as I know, is the very first game system with truly analog controllers. But the problem with them is they don't really self-center. In fact, they rely on this rubber here to center the controller for you. Also, everything that would have been on the system is, in fact, on the controller here. We got a start, a pause, and a reset button. The only thing they have on the console itself is an on-off switch. This is really the only button there is on the system. And I think when they were going from the Atari 2600 to the Atari 5200, they looked at the system and they were like, we don't want people getting up and going to the console all the time, so we'll put everything, all the buttons they'll need for the game on the controller itself. And I think they might have taken a cue from the Intellivision and thrown it on the keypad. Now, the ColecoVision did come out a few months before that, too, and had a keypad, but I think that might have been borrowing from the ColecoVision as well. Also, the Atari 2600 did have that keypad controller, so they may have been just throwing that on there as well. I believe they were thinking that we want this controller to do everything and not have to have people have to buy a separate peripheral. In fact, I will show you a separate peripheral that did come out that comes in quite handy. But this controller, I think they intended to do everything. There are 4 fire buttons, but in reality, 2 of these are the same. So there's fire 1 and fire 2, whether or not you're right or left-handed, I believe. And I guess this is kind of laid out like the old Atari 2600 controller, where you would kind of hold it like this, but they just wanted you to hold it like that instead. But yeah, these controllers were very notorious for breaking. In fact, I got 2 of these things with this console, and neither of them worked. Although I may take one of the non-working ones, and I've heard there was a paddle modification where you could take an Atari 2600 paddle and kind of, put part of that in here to get yourself a working 5200 paddle. It would work great for like Super Breakout and Kaboom. But now let's talk about another peripheral, and that is the Atari 5200 Trackball controller. Let me back up here so it's in frame. It's kind of hard from where I'm standing. But this actually works quite well, and it works with a lot of the Atari 5200 games you wouldn't expect it to work with. For example, it will work with Defender. It'll work with Galaga. In fact, I think it might work with almost every... I wouldn't say that. I think there's a list of games that work with the trackball controller, but seeing as how the 5200 analog controller is not that well, doesn't work that well for arcade style games, a lot of the arcade games that didn't originally work with didn't have a trackball controller worked really well with this. In fact, Space Invaders is much easier with this trackball controller. And the good news is that hunting down one of these things was not all that hard. In fact, I got mine in the box, nearly brand new, for $20 on eBay. But let's go ahead and take a look at the system itself. Like I said, there's very few switches on it. In fact, there's only this on-off switch. And like I was saying before, this is the first version of the Atari 5200. The second model of the Atari 5200 had a regular power supply and a regular RF connection to your TV. Now this model doesn't. This is the original model, and let me just kind of walk around the system here. Right here in front here, we have our 4 controller ports. On this side, we don't really have anything at all. But on the back here, we have your switch. Let's see if I can get in there. That determines channel 2 and channel 3 and 4. Channel 3 and 4, and it doesn't really mark it that well, which one is 3 and which one is 4. I mean, we have a square and a circle. I guess I wanted you to refer to the manual. Here, I'm not sure what this is here. I've never pried this off, and I'm not about to break my nail off doing that. But, yeah, and the really nice thing is, the one thing that I think is really nice about this is, if you notice, there's not any, like, ports or anything for anything. There's no power port, and there's no RF port. Instead, on the bottom here, we have the cord wrapped around into this built-in, holder. So you can unwrap the cord to whatever length you want it to be unwrapped. It's very long. Just kind of leave it in the indent here, flip your console over, and you have your, I know this looks like an RF cord, but it is not. If you were to plug this into your television, I think you could damage it. But anyway, these model 5200 came with this adapter. You need to use this adapter. However, if this does break, I did find instructions online on how to build your own, and I might just do that for fun. Anyway, this here plugs into the port that says game. So you got that plugged in. And over here, I've added some adapters here, but this is just would plug onto your coaxial cable. And I've added some adapters here, and this would plug right into your RF. Now, the thing that separates this apart from any another. Let me see if I can get this up here better. The thing that separates this apart from like a regular RF switch is that the power supply actually plugs into this too. So we have our power supply here. Here's the brick, and we have our wall outlet. And this is the plug that would actually plug into here where it says power. So with that, then this just plugs into the wall. And there you go. You have both your power and your RF signal running into the Atari 5200 using one cable, which I think a lot of people didn't like. Some people are still uncomfortable with that fact. But the truth is, it works just fine. And let me move some of the stuff out of the way here. And I will take the rubber band off of this and plug it in. And yeah, when you plug it in, you do hear a clicking noise. So I'll just take a game here, say Space Invaders, plug it in here. I've put labels on the top of my game so I can see them here. And you push the button and you hear a weird, I don't know if you'll be able to hear it on the camera, but it does make this weird click. It's not the button clicking, there's something in the system that clicks, and the power light comes on. And it's ready to play Atari 5200 game. It would be playing if I turned on the TV. So yeah, that's the Atari 5200 overall. I think I neglected to mention that this system itself is also built on the 8-bit computer technology Atari had, and a lot of the games are very, 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 very similar to the Atari 8-bit computer counterparts. So much so that if you liked a game on the Atari 5200, a lot of people recommend just getting an Atari 8-bit computer and getting the same game because you wouldn't have to deal with the problems with the analog joysticks in playing certain arcade-style games. So what do I think of the system overall? It's not a bad system, but if you really wanted to play the games on the Atari 5200 instead of just collecting for it, I would recommend going, as many people have recommended to me, getting an Atari 8-bit computer instead and getting the game for that instead, because they are much more playable. And I think there are more games available for that, for the computer, than there are for the Atari 5200. But you know, if you get the trackball, the roller controls on the ColecoVision, But if you do get the trackball, you do get a lot more play out of it. Like with games like Missile Command and Centipede, they just can't be beat in the Atari 5200 if you have the trackball controller. But for something like Berserk or Joust, you're better off playing it on the Atari, even the 2600. It's more playable because of the joystick. With that, I'm going to end it, and I will close the video out with some footage from the Atari 5200. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
There's a black greasy smudge on my pillow.